Hello! Today's going to be a little bit of a fun one, hopefully. If you couldn't see from the thumbnail, we're going to get some pretty high roll situation of hitting like 10 Mythic, which if you haven't seen 10 Mythic, is pretty cool. It's like the highest of a vertical trait. It's always cool to find those when you need multiple spats and you hit it. I always found 10 Mythic isn't that strong. Like in this game, I don't go first. I go some other number, which I won't spoil. But I'm kind of curious how, like I know I misplayed 1 or 2 rounds, which is probably why I didn't go first. But I definitely want to VOD review it. But at the same time, it should be a fun one for you guys to watch, and hopefully it's a good learning experience. I find that 10 Mythic in general isn't that strong, because like a lot of times, like I feel like compared to some other vertical traits, like for 2 spats, it's like it's definitely like one of the cheapest. Like it's definitely the strongest because there's a lot of other 2 spat augments that aren't as strong as Mythic, but it's not like an insta win out. You still have to have like a good spot for it. You still have to have like good items, good units. But basically, we're trying to play towards LILLIA with the items that we see here. So we started with like 3-cost champion. It's a Diana, which might be a little bit expensive to hold. But if you look at my items, I have like a Shojin off rip, which is really nice, and a bow. So I can kind of probably play towards like here I got a glove and I got a rod. So I have like really good LILLIA items because I can make like JG and then Shojin. I can hold on to bow, right? I could play around some other items and save like these rods and tiers for like frontline items. But as it stands right now, I'm just kind of like more angling towards like an AP line because I have good AP items. Whether it's LILLIA or Syndra, I can go for either of those. Silver Augment, I don't really need Pandora's because I feel like my items are good, like I just said. Stationary support is probably alright. Like there's a lot of really good stationary supports that you can kind of hit on. At least with my opener, I don't feel like I'm that strong. So what I'm going to do here is, even though I have this Diana, which is a really good frontline unit, I'm just counting my gold, and I'm probably just going to sell. Right, I was holding on to Garens and Yoriks and all of these other units because I was trying to see like if I hit a hero augment, for example. You always want to hold on to a Yorick or a Garen because you might hit the hero augment and just get the insta bailout and win. But in this case, I was kind of more inclined to play around just like losing the first couple rounds, right? I could try and play around the Diana, but I think making 10 is more important, right? If I am angling LILLIA, which is what I'm thinking of doing based off these items, right? The reason these items look really good for LILLIA is because I have this, and bow. Bow is really good for making anti-heal or shred because it can be shiv or red buff. So I basically have 2 full LILLIA items plus a bow. And here I'm trying to think like, okay, do I next level I can put in Story Weaver. I can try and play Story Weaver until I hit. You could look at these items and think that I have other good combinations, right? But I'm just looking at my item slams. It's like I pretty much have like, you know, a good set of items here to play towards like an AP line, right? I can also play towards Syndra. It's just Syndra's a lot harder to play around, in my opinion, because you need to have Dryad in early in order to stack the Dryads. And if you don't stack the Dryads, and you have to play like some kind of weird hybrid board where you're not playing Dryads and Faded, and that's just like a lower cap version of it, so it just feels a little bit more difficult to play around. But yeah, I'm trying to see like I can lose into this, like I can lose into Carousel, and then I can slam my items after. I don't want to accidentally win a round because there is like 1 or 2 guys in my pool that are a little bit weaker than me or seem like pretty weak. So basically next level, I might be able to play a board. I can put in Story Weaver here and just play around. You know, if I win fights now, maybe like I 2-streak my losses. I'm not necessarily aiming for a 5-loss streak here. It's more so just like selling those units early. I'm already making 20, right? So I'm making 20. By the time it's Carousel round, I should be able, as long as I don't buy like a 1-cost unit, as long as I don't take a 1-cost unit on Carousel, I should be able to make 30 and have a really strong econ start by just losing these 2 rounds and not trying to force into being strong either of those rounds, basically, is what I mean to say. I'm not slamming any items here just because I want to see on Carousel. I really should just slam like Shojin JG on Teemo probably, but I think I'm just like still like going for like this lose streak. I want like 3 losses, and then I should sell 1 unit, holding on to Kog'Maw always, because Kog'Maw is really important on some of the LILLIA boards, so you always want to make sure that you have a Kog'Maw on bench. And now I'm just kind of scouting. I'm trying to see how contested I would be if I were to play LILLIA. And Tahm Kench with a tier is really good here, so I would love to get Tahm Kench with a tier. Young Wild and Free takes it instantly. That kind of sucks for me. It's Kog'Maw with a rod, but I probably just take the bow, right? Bow is red buff, And red buff's a fine item slam. I think red buff is really good on LILLIA. I think I check it this game as well. But it's just like a damage. Even though red buff, you might not look at it as like an AP item. It's a damage amp and it does anti-heal. It's like, you know, a lot of times with AP units, you might think like the counterpart is just to make a Morello. But LILLIA really likes attack speed. She also really likes the damage amp from red buff. So red buff actually is like minus delta on her anyways, right? It's the same reason why sometimes Nashers you put on LILLIA. It's just like the extra attack speed and getting multicast off is really nice. And then I took this unit on. I put in Fortune. Oh, Fortune's good here, I think. Yeah, 2 rounds of Fortune. So if I 5 loss streak, I get 2 rounds of Fortune. Oh, I'm playing this really well. I think I'm back to the old me, you know. Oh, this was a very well played stage 2 in my opinion. Maybe it's not, but it was very well played from this. This guy is in like an insane spot, right? He has Dryad stacking in. He's Caretaker's Gnar, and he had Gnar items to slam instantly. He's Titan's BT. He's like Bis Gnar, and just absolutely rails me. That's fine. Sell these two. Make 30. Yeah, make 30. Oh, this is great. So the thing with Fortune is that if you see Fortune here, this is what I'm really bad at doing. But like sometimes I misidentify the spot. Here it's like free to put in Fortune, right? Because Fortune is only 2 rounds, right? Now what I'm trying to say is I'm not going to play Fortune the whole game, right? I'm not trying to play Fortune all of stage 3 because I think that's like a little bit of a throw. I slammed all my items, right? And what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and pivot into like a LILLIA board later. Here I just took like the units for gold, and then I can hold on to this LILLIA. And what I'm going to do is like the Fortune's going to cash out next turn, and like an extra 3 or 2 gold is an extra 3 or 2 gold, right? You never know, like it's just bonus resources, right? I'm already trying to 5 loss, so I'm just going to take those two Fortune rounds. I'm not going to risk it by pushing my luck and then sacking all of stage 3. Instead, you just take Fortune, you take the small cash outs, and you just sell it after, right? But I'm pretty committed LILLIA now. I think in this set, a lot of the times you have to hard commit to like a certain line. LILLIA is the most fun to me to commit to because LILLIA, you can pivot a lot within the board. For example, like if you don't hit Morgana, there's lots of options of playing like a Loon, playing something else, right? There's a couple of high roll spots, right? Like one guy has a Galio, one guy has Caretaker's Gnar and is streaking, right? Dryads aren't the most broken thing this patch, right? Obviously. But Dryads are very strong if you have an early game spot for it. Because if you are stacking Dryad and win streaking with it, then they're going to scale into late game. And that's like the most important thing. Because they go by units killed, the Dryads get more stacks. If you're lose streaking with Dryad early, then yeah, you're going to go 8th, right? But you know, it is what it is. Here, I just do my Fortune. I'm not grabbing the thing, which is pretty bad, but I should. And I've just put in some better units just to make sure that I beat Krugs. I'm always a little bit worried sometimes. I know I have 3-item Zoe, but sometimes when you have like really bad front line, some crazy shit happens. But yeah, I should have definitely, because this was Altruist, which I could have fit in, which would have been a nice spot to have. I should have grabbed this first because it's probably gold and I could have held an extra unit. And then I put in Mythic to start getting Mythic stacks, at least on Nico. Like sometimes these Mythic stacks really matter. It helps make them tanky, right? Mythic in 4 turns, they gain more AP and more HP, right? But I basically pivot off of Fortune. I could have continued to play Fortune, right? But I don't want to push my luck and then see a 6 and then have to play Fortune all of stage 3 and then not get a cash out. I'd rather just take the little cash out. I'm 60 gold level 5, right? I just have to level. I can free level to 6. I'm very ahead of tempo when it comes to... I'm very, like, rich, right? A lot of people are rich in the lobby, don't get me wrong. Like, as you see, this guy's also rich. It's because when you start with the 3 cost, a lot of times you either streak. Like, in this portal, a lot of times you streak, or you can sell it and make econ. But like I said, I sold it and lost streak, so I compensated for the fact that I wasn't win streaking. I feel like I did that sufficiently. Obviously, there's this guy and this guy who are, like, giga strong, right? That's going to be a problem later. They're very far ahead. 2 healthy would be nice if I wanted to commit to like a reroll line from here, but I feel like I don't have a good reroll spot. The guy's rerolling Gnar, so like maybe it could have been like a Zyra angle, but without any Zyras and without much of that board, kind of like, you know, the Zoe Zyra Shen angle. I just don't have enough of the units. And then I just take Epoch here because like it helps me to level, as well as it gives me these rerolls. These rules are really important because they're helping me to hit units that can help stabilize my board this turn, basically, right? So as you can see, I kind of swap out my board a little bit. I find a Nautilus with my Epoch rolls. I also find a Lee Sin, which I'm trying to figure out if I should put him in for somebody. I don't want to sell this Zoe and put items on the Kog'Maw, even though the Zoe's weaker. The only reason is that this Kog'Maw, I don't want to have to sell it because I might need it for later. But I kind of structure my board really nicely. There are some very strong boards, like this guy's like Lucky Ricochet, but he is Fortune, so hopefully I can like just cheese the win. But he seems very strong. I don't know what he's doing, if he's like actually committed to like Fortune lossing, but it's totally fine by me. I'll take a one round, right? So it worked out really well, right? I took a augment that kind of quote-unquote scales, right? I get my dummy after a certain amount of rounds, so there's no reason for me to play strongest board because I'm down an augment for all of stage 2, basically. I hit Epoch. This is the worst thing that can happen to me, by the way, this Ornn artifact one, because I just spiked my board, and now, like, with all these Ornn artifacts, it makes it very RNG the next fight, and I would have preferred to, like, win a couple rounds now that I spiked my board. But Epoch worked really well there, because I didn't really hit, like, a combat that I wanted, right? There wasn't, like, some kind of really strong combat that I needed to play. But Epoch, what it does is it gives me like the EXP that helps me to stay rich and get to like a high level, because this LILLIA board, you need a lot of gold to hit all the units. And then I was also able to roll a little bit, right? Because the biggest thing for me is because I'm so low HP, I want to roll to try and find some upgrades to stabilize. Now, I didn't find the Nico upgrade or the Zoe upgrade. Those would have been like insta like good spot for sure. But I did find like a Nautilus early, which is really nice. This fight, I don't know if it's this guy just has like a really strong board, right? He got Drop Blossom, so he just like took Drop Blossom and got a Nico 2 for free, which is kind of like, I don't know if he had other options here, but I don't get it. But I think he's taking Drop Blossom because he was gonna angle LILLIA with his items anyways, so taking Drop Blossom, it's kind of like fits on the board really nicely. But I feel like if you're not structuring around Drop Blossom, it does nothing later. Anyway, that's a guy I just fought, and he's young, wild, and free, so he gets it. He gets the item for free. Here I take a Spatula and an Alawi. Alawi is a really strong unit because I want it on my board anyways, right? It gives me synergies that are really nice, and it's very strong. But I also get a Mythic, a Spat, which can be a Mythic +1, right? So getting an extra Mythic +1 basically means I can play the 5 Mythic variation, right? So the 5 Mythic variation is basically like you play 4 Invoker, 5 Mythic, instead of just playing towards the regular Sage variation. Mythic +1 is very strong because if you hit the 5 Mythic, then eventually you can go to level 9 and play 7 Mythic, and it's very strong. The only problem is that this tier could have been a Shiv, which would have been nicer than making a Mythic emblem, but it's fine. We just play around this. And now I could fit in 5 Mythic. It's probably better than having Warden in for this turn, because I would like to get the Mythic stacks up on all these units. Yeah, I think that's correct. I got my support dummy. My support dummy, unfortunately, is one of the more useless ones. I got the Zizirot. With the Mythic line that I'm playing, especially if I'm playing 7 Mythic, I don't really need extra front line. I would have liked anything that gives combat, right? Any of the attack speed ones, any of the damage amp ones, like anything like that would have been really nice. So hitting Zizirot is kind of like a very, very low roll. It's not like the worst thing in the world, obviously. It's not like really, really bad. I'm not gonna like make it like a big deal. It's still like a support item that's like useful. I could have gone in like the one that was anti-heal, even though I have anti-heal, right? So but it was definitely in the bottom half of things that I want to see here, which is kind of unfortunate. I see Silas here. Silas synergizes with the Bruiser really well, so I'd much rather just play Mythic Silas here, because I can probably keep that for a lot of my mid game. I can also play Alune to synergize with Invokers if I'm playing like the 4 Invoker variation, which I can show now, right? There's a couple LILLIA boards that are important. I'll pause the video because it's a pretty interesting one, so I don't want to make it into a situation where we're missing out on the actual video. So if we go to stats here, I'm just going to show you some boards, right? So the typical LILLIA board that you always see is the Sage LILLIA version, which is something along the lines of this, right? It's a little bit high roll, but it's very expensive. But basically you're just playing this. And I think Janna, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, so this is just like synergy central, right? You're basically 3 mythic with the LILLIA. You get Sagen, Arcanist, Dragon Lord, Ghostly, Heavenly Invoker, Warden, and then they're all useful, right? And typically what you're trying to do is you're trying to itemize the LILLIA. A lot of times you're making, I think it's like Shojin, JG, like Nashers or Red Buff or something. Usually I see Nashers. I don't know exactly what the Bis LILLIA build is because like it changes a lot between it. But typically if you are 2 Invoker, you're making Shojin. And then if you're 4 Invoker, you're making Blue Buff. And then you don't want to make Blue Buff on LILLIA because if you have multiple tiers, then you're making items on the Morgana. So a lot of times with Morgana, you'll have this and then anti-heal and then something else, right? Like usually you want to Shiv on this board a lot. So usually it's either Shiv Morgana, or if you're down on items, it's Shiv LILLIA. But at the same time, if you look at this, like a lot of times you're trying to itemize both Morgana and LILLIA, right? And the idea behind it is that you're trying to make 2 backline carries because LILLIA kind of snipes the backline, right? The whole concept of this board is very cheesy, right? You should think of LILLIA like the AP Reaper, right? The same way like Yone dives the backline and randomly kills shit, and that's how it wins a lot of fights. LILLIA randomly shoots the backline and kills stuff, right? So that's why you want Morgana and LILLIA together, right? Morgana, what she does is she's like sniping the backline as well, and she's doing some passive damage, and then LILLIA finishes the job, right? You're having 2 units that are both trying to cheese by hitting the backline and killing the carry. So this comp does really poorly if, like, you know, for example, into duelists, right? Or Reapers, where they don't have a backline to snipe. But that's the whole point of this comp, is you're trying to snipe the backline. And you're trying to stack as much AP and Omnivamp and general AP stats as possible to try and like one-shot or kill as much shit as possible, right? That's why Heavenly works really well, Ghostly works really well, right? It's like tanky frontline, AP for backline. Sage works really well, Mythic. This is the Sage variation, right? If you have in places Morgana, you can play a lot of different things, right? There's many different ways you can play this board. I mentioned this a couple times before, but basically anybody who pairs with this LILLIA to do backline damage in place of this Morgana could be played, and the comp still works, right? So there's different variations. For example, you can play Hui. Hui can just hit the backline and kill a bunch of units the same way Morgana can, right? You want whoever could do like AoE damage could be paired really easily into this comp, right? Irelia also works, right? You can play Irelia, and then with your Dragon Lords, you can swap out a frontline unit for Lee Sin, right? And a lot of times you don't have this Wukong, and you play Lee Sin, and then you have Duelist and Dragon Lord and Irelia. And you can also play like Alun. Alun works really well, right? And then with Alun, basically whoever you hit, you alter your front line, right? If you're playing Irelia, you play a Lee Sin, right? Instead of one of the frontline units. It's very flexible. But let's just remove the Wukong, because you're not going to hit the Wukong early, right? So if you hit Irelia, your board looks like this, right? It's I'll just put these on the side. It's basically these units here, right? You put Lee Sin in, and you put Irelia in, and then you get Duelist and an extra Dragon Lord, right? If you hit Alun, right? We'll go for Alun now. If you hit Alun, then you put in Silas, right? And then if you have Silas in, you could probably drop Nico. A lot of times you might not have Nautilus upgraded, but you can drop Nico and you can play Tahm Kench, right? Because Tahm Kench is a bruiser that gives synergy with bruisers, right? And then if you hit Wei, then you're usually going for like a 5 mythic variation, right? And then there's also like the 4 invoker variation, which I can also cover. But basically, if you're hitting Hui, then you're just going for 5 mythic because you have Hui on your board, right? So you play like the Tahm Kench, whatever, and then you're 5 mythic, right? And then on level 7, you play 7 mythic, right? But typically, what you're gonna do is the more high cap variation of this is you have blue buff LILLIA and you play 4 invoker. So when you play 4 invoker variation, you typically have Annie frontline. And it looks something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It looks something like this, right? You basically have 4 invoker, you're playing this Azir. It can be Janna or Alun. Azir doesn't do backline damage, but Azir does so much frontline damage that it works out to the same thing. LILLIA kind of hits the backline, Annie stalls, and Azir hits the frontline. So it's a little bit of a different variation of the comp. But typically when you're here, what you do is you start dropping the Dragon Lords because you don't necessarily need them. And what you do is you end up playing towards, on level 9, you play 7 mythic, right? You find a Hui, and you find a Tahm Kench. And then if you have a mythic +1, you can mythic somebody, and you can play like this higher cap variation, right? If you drop like the you could drop back down to 2 Invoker, and then you can play like 7 Mythic a lot of times, right? By just playing like an extra Mythic here. Where is it? Kog'Maw. Like this is another variation, right? Where you're playing 4 Invoker and you play 7 Mythic, right? Typically you drop like one of the frontline units, right? So let's say you drop like you usually need like a Mythic +1. This one's a little bit more high roll, but you play something along the lines of this, and then you have a Mythic +1, and you make it to a thing. So you're still 4 Invoker, and you have a Mythic +1, so you put it on Annie, and then you're 7 Mythic, right? But this is the 7 Mythic variation is very hard to play if you don't have a Mythic +1. Because if you don't have a Mythic +1, you have to drop a Lowy and a Zir, and then you're only playing 2 Invoker, and it's a little bit awkward. And then your Annie, you can't really play well. But this is like the 7 Mythic variation if you have a Mythic +1. So this is what I'm more aiming towards. It's still better to have blue buff because you're 4 Invoker, 7 Mythic on LILLIA, but it's a little bit awkward to play it because I already made Shojin. Shojin's strictly worse when you are playing around LILLIA without the 4 Invoker, right? So let's go Explorer. Right, if I go LILLIA, and I go 2-star, and I go items, right? I think the best items. See, red buff is always really good. That's what I was saying before. Shiv is really good because it's really important. It says blue buff is the best, but if you put 2 Invoker, you'll see that it's Shojin. Shojin should be higher. Oh, it's actually not anymore. Oh, this is kind of funny. I think blue buff now is just starting to get a little bit better this patch. Because 4 Invoker, it's always blue buff. So I think Shojin is just worse now. It used to be that if you're 2 Invoker, you'd never play blue buff. But yeah, see, blue buff is your best item if you're 4 Invoker. Anyways, that was a little interlude. Let's go back to the video now. That was like the little tutorial just for the people watching so that you know how to play it and you kind of understand the different variations, right? So I remember I talked like you can play Silas in one version, you can play a Loon. It's very flexible, right? It's just a matter of recognizing what units you have and just trying to fit in the synergies that make the units matter, right? So like here, because I'm playing the Silas, I'll probably try and angle maybe to find an Alun. Then I could put the Alun in instead of like a Morgana. And I can play like the 7 Mythic eventually. Usually for 7 Mythic, you have to be level 9 to properly fit it in. Obviously, you can just play like 7 Mythic and just shove in all the Mythic units if you find a way. But it's just a little bit more awkward to fit in, a little bit awkward to play. Here, I think I just had bad positioning. I'm pretty sure the Lux just killed my units. I could have killed a couple more. But yeah, I'm very low HP here, right? I didn't spike very hard. As you can see, I just ended up losing a bunch of rounds anyways. I won this round, and then I just lost everything else. Everybody's just very high roll in this lobby. Like, as you can see, like, everybody's like, there's a lot of rerollers and a lot of people that are very strong. My spot is very good, though, because with the Mythic +1, I do have a lot. I have Mythic +1 and I have really good LILLIA items. So I'm pretty excited, at least, to see what I can do. And then here, you know, Guard Breaker is fine. The problem is here is I was really hoping to get frontline items, right? As much as I want to itemize towards a backline carry, here I find the Azir, so I can play the 4 Invoker variation because I found Azir early. I find Morgana. I'm just rolling for everything, trying to find as many upgrades. As you can see, I'm not hitting LILLIA. I do have 2 Azirs here, which is really nice because maybe I just hit Azir. The problem is it's just like, yeah, this just went in. I really wanted to put in Morgana probably. I just itemized the Azir here because I'm 35 HP, right? I didn't find any Lilias, so I just need to like kill units and try and win this fight. This guy's already Gnar 3. Not only did he get caretakers, he also like high rolled the Gnars because he's level 750 gold, and he has Gnar 3. So this guy's going straight to level 10. It's just gonna be miserable. So I lose against this guy. There's very low chance I beat him, I don't think. This Gnar just kills everything, probably. Oh, unless maybe my Nico. Imagine? No. But it's a 1-unit loss. It's not that bad. I make 10 here because I'm trying to, like, fit in my board. I'm holding these Annies because I want to play the Invoker variation because I have Azir. Invoker's just really nice on Azir when you're playing towards him. And then I'm looking at my augments, right? Reinforcement, and then if I hit a LILLIA, I have a LILLIA 2 is probably my best bet. I don't think 6 Invoker is that good. If I wasn't so low HP, it was Combat Caster 100%, right? Anyways, I find Azir 2. So I found Azir 2 before finding a single copy of LILLIA, which kind of sucks. But basically, because I don't have any LILLIAs, I took Reinforcement, which basically just upgrades something to a 2-star. Because I don't think I'm going to be stable, right? I have now I have Azir 2. If I knew I was going to hit Azir 2, obviously I wouldn't have played towards this, right? Also, I should swap in this for this. Too slow. Basically, I just didn't hit LILLIA, and this is what happens a lot of times when you angle these comps. But, you know, I didn't really have many other options because I was kind of playing kind of narrow with my item slams. I couldn't really commit to a reroll earlier because I didn't hit any, like, you know, if I hit a bunch of Zoes, I could have committed Zoe reroll probably with those items. But, like, there wasn't really a spot to play Zoe reroll because I just didn't even find, like, a Zoe upgrade in the entirety of the stage, right? This Azir is very strong. Azir position is kind of weird because, like, he's my only carry. A lot of times he's a secondary carry and you put him in the middle because then when he beams, like, the entire front line, just melts all of them. But because he's, like, my only carry, I'm putting him in the corner because I'm just trying to keep him safe so he lives longer. But what I was saying is the best combat caster is very strong in, like, not only in this setup, but in all setups, right? Combat caster is just such a strong trait that it would definitely take combat caster. But because I'm so behind in finding LILLIAs, I feel like I'm not going to be stable, and I'm so low HP that I don't want to greed for, like, the Giga combat, right? That's basically the situation that I'm in, right? I know that if I hit LILLIA 2 with this setup, I should be fairly strong, right? Because I have so much AP from, like, the Mythic. And as you can see here, like, I'm already at 6 Mythic. I could fit in 7 Mythic this turn, but that's why I was saying usually go to level 9. Because in order to fit in Mythic, I would either have to drop Silas, which loses me frontline Bruiser, or Alawi, which loses me frontline Arcanist, right? It's a little bit inefficient. The better play would be to lose Bruiser and play Annie, because my board is mostly Mythic anyways. Getting 4 Invoker in is, I think, a little bit more beneficial to this Azir than having the Silas in for the front line. Anyways, this is the other LILLIA player, I believe, that hit a Hui and a LILLIA, so it's not even like they hit super hard. I'm not like Giga contested on LILLIAs. But man, it would have been so nice if I had Combat Caster. Combat Caster would have really put me in a good spot here. And I think that's part of the reason why I don't go first this game. Is because I just don't have a single combat augment. There's another spat, right? If I get another spat, I'm kind of down. I'm down for multiple reasons, right? It's not only the 10 Mythic out, right? With 2 spats, you can hit 10 Mythic, but you have to be level 10. But the main reason I'm taking another spat is because with the current setup of my board, I might be stuck on level 8, right? Remember I said you usually have to go to level 9 to fit in 7 Mythic if you're playing the 7 Mythic version. If you're playing 4 Invoker 7 Mythic, right? I showed you that board. Usually you have to go to level 7, level 9 without, like, you know, fully messing up your board. Because I might be stuck on level 8 because I'm very low HP, right? If you look at me, I'm in dire straits, right? I'm 20 HP, right? There's a guy that's like 100 streaking the game, right? This is a guy, he had a Galio super early. He hasn't hit a Syndra yet, but he had a Galio on like stage 2 when he played Story Weaver, and then he's pivoted into Syndra now because he had Syndra items. But he was playing like Galio the whole game, right? And so this guy's just full streaked. There's the Gnar player that I'm pretty sure will still probably beat me. Maybe not anymore because I have double carries. But because I'm so low HP, I'm worried that I won't make it to like level 10, right? So it's not as much as I'm trying to play towards like the 10 Mythic insta giga win out, right? It's more so that I am aiming to fit 7 Mythic on level 8 in case I get stuck at level 8, right? Because as soon as I lose a fight, I'm just sending it to 0. I'm rolling for whatever upgrades I can. I need to find like something. Maybe I hit Tom Kench 3 and I stay level 8, you know. The gold investment to level up becomes like a problem, right? I'm probably rolling for like Silas 2, or I'm rolling for Annie 2 or something like that, right? The main reason I'm not switching in the Annie is mostly because like I probably should be playing 4 Invoker. I think that the front line is just more important because I have this Azir. I'm not playing around this LILLIA anyways, but I should definitely swap in like the Annie for sure. It's probably also just 7 Mythic right now, but I don't know. We'll see. I think the thing that sucks for me though is having this Mythic on this front line, because I have this Azir with 3 items. It would have been nice to have Mythic on Azir because it's just nice to have like tanky and a lot of Giga AP on Azir. I think Mythic Azir is pretty good in these setups. We'll see later. I'm pretty sure it works out anyways. Here, I position around the Lux, right? I don't really care about my LILLIA right now because I have Azir. So, yeah. And now we're just going towards... I guess, like, this is what I'm thinking if I just put in the Annie. The problem with the transition to Annie is if I'm swapping out Sylas for Annie 1, it's a lot weaker because the Sylas already has the Mythic stack. So he's Bruiser with the Mythic HP. So he's actually doing a lot for the front line. So pivoting this, if I don't feel like I'm strong, is actually very scary. Because I lose a lot of front line. Because it's not only the unit, it's also the Mythic stacks on the unit. Anyways, I get dropped a remover, which is really nice. But I get dropped double sword, which is pretty bad. And I want to make a Mythic emblem. I don't want to make like a ghostly emblem. So I'm not going to use these swords ever. So now I'm just going to be like down a sword. Anyways, I put the Mythic on him and I put the item on LILLIA. So the thing with LILLIA, it's hard to show exclusions. But the thing that's really important is that I might not have a mana item on LILLIA, right? But the thing that's really nice about the anyways, I find a way so I can start duplicating. So that's like my new vibe, right? So I put in I basically swap out one of my backline units for 7 Mythic now, right? And I'm only 2 Invoker. I basically took out the Kog'Maw, right? Because this way does a lot of damage. It should be fine. When you're playing around LILLIA, you can play LILLIA with no mana item, right? Because no mana items are just pure damage is okay if you're 4 Invoker, because 4 Invoker generates mana anyways, so it kind of works out. So I think that's the angle that I'm going for now. Anyways, this Gnar player is a little bit too far behind me, because I just have too much damage, because as you can see, the Gnar has to pick a side, right? I split my carries. So if the Gnar was on this side, he would angle the LILLIA, and then the Azir would kill him. But this works out really well. Kha'Zix appeared. Guess what? The game's fucking bad. I complain about Kha'Zix all the time. Guess what? I'm 10 Mythic now. Right? There's 2 people that are high rolling. This guy and this guy. This guy and the Gnar player. But guess what? What do you know? Kha'Zix, I get to level up for free, right? It's gonna cost me 25% less. It's only gonna cost me 60 gold to make it to level 10. So now I can actually play towards the 10 Mythic out. If Kha'Zix didn't appear, I was never playing 10 Mythic. But look, I just leveled straight to 9, right? Just put in my unit. I should put in another Invoker though, is the problem. I just don't know if I should lose this Sylas yet, because the Sylas is just such a good frontline unit for me right now. But I should definitely play a Loon over Annie if I have the option. It's a Loon over somebody, I think, because the extra frontline that I would get from the a Loon is also really important. Remember I was talking with Sylas, usually you want to play a Loon. I think my board just didn't fit in right now. I do have the duplicator on, so I'm just trying to like duplicate into if I hit this Annie 2, then I can swap the Sylas a little bit more comfortably, I would say. This guy didn't hit yet, which is nice for me at least, because that's a free win. Or he just tempo leveled to 9, never mind, because Kha'Zix appeared. But as you can see, I'm very stable once I hit all of my units, and as well as having this 7 Mythic is really nice. But the whole lobby is kind of on a timer because I can hit 10 Mythic. Now, the main thing that I'm going to say right here is that my items didn't work out that well, right? I didn't really get tank items at any point, right? If you look at my items, what items did I get? The only tank item that I got was a belt this whole game, right? So it worked out having the ZZ Rot. It's like kind of funny that I said it wasn't that good because I'm going to have a lot of frontline, but I have 0 tank items this whole game, right? So you might look at it and be like, oh, that's really cool though. You have like all of this shit, right? I don't have Shred yet. So I really want to make like, I really want to make a Spark if I can. But Shiv is a lot better for this comp because you're angling to hit the backline a lot of the time. But the main issue that I have right now is that I don't have any frontline items. So my frontline is getting deleted really easily, right? And you'll see that later that might turn out to be a problem. A lot of times with this comp, it's very item hungry, right? If you can't find like a good item, see like this guy, I lost against him. And it wasn't, I think it was literally just because like, I think if I had more frontline and my Nautilus gets like another stun off, I just win. But I don't have any frontline, so it's just really bad. Here, I should just take the Thieves Gloves, but it gets taken. I need a frontline item for sure, but I think I just take Shiv because it's Shred, right? I need frontline and Shred, and I'm kind of committed to just, okay, I just need LILLIA items, and hopefully on Dragon I can pick a frontline item. That's basically what I'm thinking. But Shiv is just too good for this comp because you're always trying to hit the back line. Shiv shreds the back line, so it's really important. But either way, what I'm trying to say is not getting dropped any frontline items is just very scary here. It's just very scary. Here I put in the Annie. I put in Annie for 4 Invoker. I could have dropped one of the Mythic units and keep... Who did I sell? I sold Silas, right? I forget who I sold. Yeah, I sold Silas for Annie too. I think that's correct. I think Annie 2 with Mythic is so good. The reason Mythic is so good on Annie is because Annie scales off HP and Mythic gives a bunch of HP. Like a lot of Annie's damage and attack, damage and healing, her damage and healing basically scales off her HP. That's why you see Mythic's back on Annie a lot. It's also why Mythic's back was good on Silas because he's Bruiser, so he also scales his HP. But as you can see, these two components were like the worst drops, right? I already got dropped a sword here, but I got dropped 2 additional swords when I'm playing towards AP. And there's not really a holder of Deathblade on this comp. I could angle towards like fitting in Irelia maybe, but now I'm just like playing towards Tet and Mythic that I'm kind of in this type of spot. And this kind of sucks here. I think I lose this fight just barely, right? Yeah. And this is just a matter of not having enough frontline, right? The Syndra chewed through the front line. Look at them. They're both 1 HP. And now I'm 1 HP. So, you know, those last 2 fights, just not having a frontline in was like the main thing that was a problem. But I tried to play this part of the game as early as well as I could, right? I think my board is strong as shit. The problem is I just don't have a frontline item. There's probably a little bit better positioning, like if I made sure my Nautilus, the Syndra basically targeted my Nautilus first because she's they're playing Syndra in the middle because there's a Lux player. So the Lux player is usually shooting like this or like this. So a lot of people are putting their carries in the middle. I should be putting this Nautilus off to the side, just to guarantee that he doesn't get like one shot by anything. Which I think is what happened that fight, which was a little bit bad. But I should be stronger than most people in the lobby. I have a Mythic Azir too. I don't think my Azir didn't Mythic. 7 Mythic, I think he instantly Mythics, right? So I should be all Gucci. But as you can see, even with no frontline, this is what I was saying. You get so much HP that your frontline is just kind of like a tank. My board is very strong, right? I just need to make it to level 10 for 10 Mythic, and then I should be able to convert this to hopefully a win. But, you know, I kind of spoiled at the beginning saying it wasn't a win. The main thing I'm looking for is a Cho'Gath, right? Cho'Gath is a 1-cost unit. It's very unlikely to hit, but that's the one I'm missing for 10 Mythic, basically. Yeah, this guy, I should have beat this guy, that one fight, right? It was very close. I'm pretty sure that was a positioning diff. Right, if I position my units to do like more blast damage, and it's so hard to say, but I think I should have been at least 1 more life here, and that would have made things a lot nicer for me. It's some gold, right? I don't want to roll too aggressively here because I can make it to level 10. It's Kha'Zix, right? This guy who was streaking the whole game is level 10. I'm sure the Dryad guy is going to be level 10 in like 1 turn, right? So we're all making it to level 10. Because Kha'Zix appeared, the game fucking sucks. Even though it helped me, right? I'm not saying that Kha'Zix didn't help me, but it's just so unfortunate. Because I'm 1 life, there's no reason to greed, right? A lot of times you'll see players, they'll roll because the percentage chance is so low now for a Kha'Zix. A lot of times you roll a little bit earlier to try and find the Kha'Zix ahead of time. Here, it worked out that I'm on the same side as the Gnar. When I'm fighting, I have a lot of damage with this Azir and this LILLIA. So as long as I can like blast down this Gnar, because the Gnar is the only real frontline unit, as long as I can chew through it early enough, I should be able to convert it to a win, right? Now, I'm not sure exactly what happened here, but this guy has a Dryad emblem, right? Oh, was it because it was triple spat? Did he get it off the spat carousel? He probably got off the spat carousel. I was going to say, I think there was a gold orb drop, but never mind. I think you're off spat carousel. So he's 6 Dryad with a Gnar 3 that's been stacking the whole game. Gifts from the Fallen, heavy hitters, right? Because it's Gifts from the Fallen, heavy hitters, you really want to deal with the Gnar as soon as possible. Because the Gnar just has so much damage that you want to do a bunch of damage before the Titan stacks up. And you want to do a bunch of damage before like he gets all of the Gifts from the Fallen, right? It's just really rough. Here I'm just donkey rolling for a Cho'Gath, right? Because Cho'Gath will spike my board by a little bit. I put in the Silas because it gives me Bruiser, right? Which gives my front line a little bit of power. Here I drop Bruiser for Heavenly. because Heavenly gives everybody HP as well because of the Nico, right? So it's pretty much the same as Bruiser. It gives HP because of Nico, but it also gives attack speed because of the Wukong. Anyways, I should be stronger than this guy for sure now, just because like being level 10, having as much damage I didn't grief my position by that much, as you can see. I'm doing a lot of damage onto this dude early instead of like splitting my carries, right? I think that's what happened last time. Oh, I don't lose here, right? Yeah. I sniped the Syndra before this. It's very close though. This guy's very strong. I think because he was playing, he was streaking most of the game. He has a lot of Dryad stacks on his Ornn, so it's a little bit hard to deal with. And like I said, I don't have frontline items. So it's like a race to get frontline items for me. Here I'm just printing anything because I'm just trying to print for extra gold, basically. And I'm looking for a Bard and a, what's his name? Bard and the other dude. Also, why do I have a QSS on this guy? Did I just not hit a frontline item again? Wait, let me go back. I'm actually curious. I didn't realize I put a QSS on him. Did I just miss a frontline item? I want to see. Yeah, just no frontline item again. Like, god damn it. Like, that would have helped me a lot too. And I just missed there as well. Man, that's bad for me. Sometimes you low roll, but sometimes you high roll. Anyways, because of the duplicate, it's good to have a 1 cost to duplicate because you just keep earning 1 extra gold per round. So that's all I'm doing this round. Here I'm just shuffling my units. Like I said, I want to be all aligned to try and blast down this Gnar as soon as possible. It's Gifts from the Fallen Gnar. If I don't blast him down, I'm pretty sure I don't win this fight because I don't have enough front line to sustain myself against heavy hitters, Kindred 3, Gnar 3, right? So as you can see here, my front line is dying, right? My front line is dead, but the Gnar dies just in time, right? And that was me doing damage to the Gnar constantly, right? These two guys are 100% focus firing the Gnar the whole fight, and I just barely am able to kill it in time, right? That's what's really important. Mythic +1 is good for me because if I hit Mythic +1, I can win because I'll be 10 Mythic. But this guy's like guarding it, which kind of sucks. And the other item that I want isn't close to it. So I don't want to give up this Heavenly Emblem because if I don't get a Mythic Emblem, a Heavenly Emblem is good because, like I said, it helps the Nico a little bit. Was there a frontline item though? It might have been frontline item instead. Yeah, look, again, there's no frontline item, right? Sterix isn't that good on, like, it doesn't really do anything for Nautilus. But once again, like, you know, as much as I high rolled like some of the spots, there's nothing here that helps my front line. The thing that helps my front line the most is probably Heavenly because it gives HP to everybody, right? But I'm not going to take like a single component here, unless I have a component left over, but I don't think I have any components left over. So I literally can't even play anything. And like, oh my god, it's just so low roll. I was wondering why I took Heavenly Spat. That's why I wanted to see if I made a mistake, but no, I don't think I made a mistake. I think I just low rolled. I find Bard's really necessary. And now I'm rolling for Cho'Gath. I find Cho'Gath, so I'm 10 Mythic. I hit. GG. Surely this is a win out, right? 10 Mythic. I just put the Heavenly Emblem on him because he'll gain more Heavenly bonus. So, you know, it's the best that I can do. I'm still 4 Invoker, which is nice because my LILLIA has no items. And I'm playing this Annie because Annie just really tanks off of really gains a lot of tank stats off of the HP bonuses. The Heavenly also helps my little dude a little bit. But now I'm definitely stronger than this guy. So it's definitely I'm going to beat the Syndra player, which is nice. But as you can see, it's very close, right? This game is very long, right? If you can't tell by the video, we're at 6-5. We're going to be starting round 7 soon. You know what I mean? It just worked out that way, the way the HPs, like a lot of people took narrow losses. I definitely have way more damage than everybody else in the lobby, so I should play for a first here. It's like it should always be a first, right? I honestly think these items off the LILLIA and onto the Hui is probably better. I think Hui 2 does more damage than the LILLIA 2 with items. But it's a little bit awkward for me to switch items off because then I lose some of like the backline access. But, you know. I should hold on to LILLIA's though. It's probably replaced the LILLIA with the put the items on the way. It's just so unfortunate. If I had a frontline item, I think I win. This guy has Gnar on this side. It's against a clone though, so I think this is what baits me. Because I feel like I'm pretty strong right now. The Gnar wraps, which is kind of unfortunate. But I'm pretty sure I win this fight because it's a clone. Right? I just have way too much damage. Dryad stacks are bugged with clone if I'm not mistaken. So I think this Gnar is just not as tanky as he could be. But it comes down really close. Gnar walks to the Sand Soldier, which is nice. It's such a close lobby. It's tier 7. I definitely misplayed this last round. I know for sure because I probably lose very soon. Bard upgrade matters. None of these can really be upgraded. It's probably switch these items onto Hui if I'm being honest here. But it's just unfortunate. Right, I fought this guy's clone. I fought this guy's real. So it's a 50-50 if I fight clone or real, I think. So we'll see what happens. Gain a bunch of gold. That's fine. It's just such a high cap game. Thieves Gloves is great. I can put on a frontline unit. Yeah, put on this guy. I roll really good items on him as well. That's nice. I don't know if it was like third item on this guy or not, but anything is good. Here I'm just rolling. I should probably hold on to LILLIA as I get a Bard too. It looks like his Gnar's on this side. So what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to bait it. Like I'm trying to move my units and make him like switch it back. So he switches it back here. And I think he just breaks my ankles, right? I wanted to switch to opposite side, but I just don't get it in time. And he switches the Gnar on this side. And you'll see that this fight, it's 7-1, 6 Dryad stacking the whole game. And I'm not blasting down this Gnar instantly. It doesn't matter that I'm 10 mythic. Like, this little prismatic thing is just for aesthetics. Because it doesn't matter. Because watch what's going to happen, right? The Gnar wraps, right? He goes back. I just don't have enough front line, right? I didn't even kill the units that I was targeting. And it's just over. Even this Alawi is just doing damage. So I just lose. And the other guy, I think, fought clone. The other guy would have lost as well, but he fought clone. So it's just a guaranteed third for me. 10 mythic, third place. I messed up 2 fights, right? That's all it took was those I think 3 fights, this fight and the 2 others that costed me going first. And first to third, right? Instead of gaining like 40 LP, I just gained like 22. So that's like a 20 LP swing from just messing up a couple fights. Obviously, it was a little bit low roll that I didn't hit a frontline item. It was a little bit scary, but I did hit one towards the end, so you can't say that it's that bad. I needed to blast down this Gnar, right? The positioning really mattered. I should have swapped sides. But it's almost like a 50-50, right? Because I'm shuffling my units. I should have shuffled my units more to try and bait this guy into thinking that I was going to move, right? Because I kind of kept I was shuffling my front line, but I should have shuffled my back line back and forth to make it more like 50-50-ish. Because he just positioned what he thought was best. Like, he just put his Gnar on opposite side. Me, I was, like, going back and forth. I should have gone back and forth to make him, like, question whether or not he puts his Gnar there or not. I thought that once he moved his Gnar, he was, like, done. But he baited me because he was shifting. I just misplayed it. It was very obvious. I should just swap sides. And this guy I definitely beat. Even though he has the Dryad stacks with a little bit of front line, like this Thieves Gloves, I would have beat him. So just unfortunate. Obviously, this guy was very high roller. Caretaker's Gnar, like, so early in the game. Kha'Zix appeared. He has Exalted in, right? Has enough room to fit in, like, Reapers and, like, Azir and everything. So, you know, it was just one of those crazy games. Kha'Zix sucks, right? I hate Kha'Zix. And, but yeah, hopefully this was entertaining or fun, right? It was a variation of LILLIA that I hadn't played as much before. So hopefully, it's a little bit interesting for you to watch. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of day/weekend.